you think of the first 100 days of Trump?
Blown away. Amazing. Amazing. He couldn't have done any better. For 78 years old, he is phenomenal. I'd like to see anybody who can stay up as late as he does at night and be up the next morning and still function all day, because I don't think I could.
What have you liked the most in terms of what he's done?
Oh my gosh, the immigration policies. You know, if you're here illegally, you need to go home.
What do you think of
the first 100 days? Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Good morning, Pineapples. Looking very good to very nice. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Bruce Birtwistle, I'm so sorry, our friend in Canada. Canada just doesn't like freedom, I guess. Sad to hear it. Sorry about the Liberals. Maybe next time Canada voted for the Liberals instead of the Conservatives, like they always do. Sad. Sad. And a lot of people want to blame Donald Trump, but let's be honest. At the end of the day, you voted for the guys, okay? It's your fault, Canada. You voted for him. Did Trump help? We'll talk about that this morning. The first 100 days, President Trump's first 100 days as the 47th president from a liberty perspective. That's right. That's why you watch the Wake Up America show. Donald Trump's second term hits the 100-day mark on April 29th, 2025. That's today. We're going to talk about his performance, analyze it through the lens of individual liberty, limited government, and free markets, because that's what we stand for. Trump's first 100 days have been a whirlwind of executive action, policy shifts, and controversy, offering both wins and some setbacks for the libertarian cause. I'm going to break down the key pros and cons of his early second term and assign an overall score grounded in libertarian principles. Yes. So that's me. Somebody described me yesterday. I posted a tweet just because I was curious to see what responses I would get. And I just asked people, why do you follow me? And I got a range of options. Mostly it was because people said, even if I don't agree with you, I still think you're being honest. I want to hear your take on things, which I thought was, a pretty big compliment in many ways. So that's, if you watch the Wake Up America show, you're going to get a straightforward take. There's not, just ass kissing going on over here, right? Just because our guy is in office, I'm willing to call balls and strikes. And while that can be, hurtful in terms of a political career, it's helpful in having, being able to sleep at night and knowing that when you watch the Wake Up America show, you're going to get straight poop. So I've got the pros, I've got the cons. We're going to talk about all that. But when I saw that Camellia was going to be on today, and I was reading this article in the Wall Street Journal, read it every day. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's crap. But this article I thought was very Camellia because she's a lady. She likes decorum. So when I saw this piece, Wall Street Journal piece, where did all the classy Americans go? From politics and podcasts to sports and TV, everybody's taking the low road. I thought Camellia would be perfect for this. As a man who sometimes is known to take the low road, we'll hear from Camellia. She always takes the high road. At 8 a.m. Central this morning, we're going to hear from Camellia, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about where have all the classy Americans gone. And spoiler alert, I kind of think that Americans were never really that classy. I mean, do I have to spell it out for you? This isn't some aristocracy. Whew. So much stuff is going on in Peterson world, in Peterson land. For those of you who are going to be joining us in Washington, D.C., so excited this week. So today is the last show until Friday, because Stephanie and I are flying out tomorrow. We're going to be in Washington, D.C., for May 1st through the 3rd, but we fly out tomorrow, and then the APDC Liberty Tour is going on this week, Wednesday through Saturday. I'm leading a group of people from around the Capitol, giving them a Capitol tour, introducing them to our representatives, giving you a little sort of a Liberty tour of DC that would talk about the things or issues that maybe regular tours would not give you. So we set this up. Stephanie and I set this up in January, and we got about 22 people who are going to be joining us in Washington, D.C. this week, maybe, give or take, maybe more. Somebody asked me yesterday, they said, Austin, what is the biggest, the number one thing you're doing to advance liberty? And it kind of felt like it was a bit of a gotcha question. Somebody was like, oh, like they were like, because I posted this tweet, it did really well. I said, if you don't support liberty, even when it's unpopular, you don't really support it at all. And for some reason, that tweet is just taking off and everybody's retweeting it. So somebody was probably like, what are you doing to advance liberty, Austin? Well, first of all, a ton, and second of all, what do you consider to be number one? What's the most impactful thing that you're doing? Well, I could say, it's the documentary, or I'm going to go to, I'm in a movie next week and I'm going to go to try and sell my documentary about the Battle of Athens and all this kind of, I was on Fox News the other day, and most people be kind of like, well, you know what I'm doing? I think that is probably the most valuable thing. Just, getting, doing what people don't tend to do anymore and meet actual people in person and show them around and teach them about how their system of government works. How's that? Boots on the ground. How many people are going to do stuff like that? But I love it because I love hanging out with people. I'm a social guy, social butterfly in an online world where people are scrolling, and very few people actually go out and meet people in person these days. AP's getting the gang together, and we're going to talk about freedom. We're going to learn how our system of government works. So if you guys are joining us on the tour, I can't wait to see you. So many of you, I've just been really excited to hopefully meet in person, and now this is our chance. Some of you are very sad that you won't be able to go, but it's not the last one, because now that this one has proven to be so popular, we sold so many tickets, we're going to book another one. Stephanie and I, this time we're going to step it up a notch, and we're going to see if we can book a trip to go to Buenos Aires, Argentina, meet with Javier Milei. How cool would that be? I don't know if we'll be able to meet with Javier Milei, but we'll try. But at least we'll eat some delicious barbecue, some asado, and drink Merlot. Oh, not Merlot, but what do they drink? Malbec down there in Argentina. Delicious, delicious wine. And if steak and wine is not your thing, we'll figure out some vegetarian option for you guys as well. Okay. All right. Don't forget, today we always have our amazing bonus content. You guys have been loving the Lego mini documentary series that we've created. So I'm not just working on a full length, feature documentary. We also create 5-minute mini documentaries, and we've locked onto this style that people have just been raving about, where we produce these stories using Legos, or it's AI, obviously, but we use the Lego theme to create these incredible stories. Yesterday was about an ancient Mayan city that was found, all in Legos. So it's beautiful, it's fun, it's funny, and you can see today's mini documentary by unlocking it behind the paywall. Austin, how do we unlock it behind the paywall? Very simple, Timmy. You go to rumble.com/AP for Liberty, where people like Sarah for Liberty and YO Wildman and Andy Opperman are hanging out. And you drop a Rumble rant. And if we hit $75 raised by the end of the show in Rumble rants, that will unlock the bonus content. But the funnest way to do this, the most fun way, let me turn my face away from the camera so it will lock on to the faces on the boxes that are sitting in the foreground here. Hold on, let me see. It's still trying to lock onto me. Hold on, let me get out of the frame here. See if I can get out completely. No, it's not going to do it. Yep, there it went. I got to just take my face out of the frame, turn away from it completely. You guys can still hear me. Buy a box of Founding Flavors coffee. It's delicious. It's nutritious. You can get it exclusively at forlibertyshop.com. Our Founding Flavors coffee, top 3 favorite flavors for me, the Franklin's Electric Elixir. It's the bomb. The Adams's Patriotic Perk, a dark roast. There it goes. It's in focus. The Adams's Patriotic Perk is a delicious dark roast that you can put in your espresso machines, make a nice espresso or cappuccino or latte. Highly recommended. Madisonian Morning, it's that light roast. It's delicious. It's very, very buzzy. But the number one seller in the shop, and it's It's over the Jeffersonian Java. So if you go to forlibertyshop.com during the live stream and you buy a box of coffee, that counts towards the $75 unlock the bonus content. And then you guys get to see the mini documentary. Cool? We're going to make so many memories. We're going to have so much fun in Washington, D.C. You can also read about the D.C. tour, even if you're not going, and be jealous at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Let's get this going. Real quick, though, before we do the Trump Liberty score, check out this video here. This is real. This is a Marine flying on a jetpack. What happens if he crashes in the ocean? Would they be able to rescue him? I would certainly hope so. And is that a life preserver on him? I mean, because, dude, anything. Look at that. Anything could happen right there. The thing could blow up. What kind of fuel does it take? Bro, we got jetpack soldiers before we got Elder Scrolls 7 or whatever it is, or Grand Theft Auto 6. Would you guys ride in a jetpack? I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Would you do that? Would you ride in that? Send me a text. 573-319-1586 is the text line. Again, that phone line that you want to send me a text to is 573-319-1586. Again, 573-319-1586. One listener texted in, says, so I know you're going to give Trump an F on the scorecard for tariffs. Oh, whoa, man. Why are you coming at me with the anger right out of? You don't know that. You don't know me. Boo. He says, I have two questions. How do we deal with China, an adversary to the U.S., and their unfair trade practices? If countries have tariff on the U.S., isn't free trade a mythical standard to hold? Well, these are both excellent questions, Mo Farmer on X. And if you want the answer, you're going to have to stick around and watch the Ding Dang Show, okay? Liberty's score has not been dropped yet. I'm going to deduct 2 points for attitude. Just kidding. But we will get to the tariffs. We are going to talk about this. Advancing liberty. Where does Donald Trump stand on the 100-day mark? Today is the official 100th day of the Trump presidency. Let's go through the pros and cons. The pros: Department of Government efficiency, DOGE, and deregulation efforts. High marks. Points for even trying. All right, Trump's establishment of DOGE, led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, aimed to slash federal spending and bureaucracy. Now, while the promised $1 trillion, I was told $2 trillion, $1 trillion in savings was downgraded to $150 billion. DOGE's aggressive push to fire federal workers, you guys remember that? Their tears were delicious. Terminate grants and downsize agencies aligns with libertarian ideas to shrink the state. Marks. Credit. Executive orders targeting regulations lacking congressional backing have also chipped away at the administrative state's overreach. For example, DOGE's actions have made federal employment less secure, potentially deterring reliance on government jobs and redirecting talent to the private sector, which of course libertarians see as a net positive for economic efficiency. So DOGE. And I think that when it comes to DOGE, I mean, I'm a little, sad that we didn't get the $1 trillion, right? But I always thought that that was probably pretty dubious in terms of what they actually were going to be able to accomplish, right? A lot of critics, mostly are like federal experts, claim that DOGE caused chaos without improving efficiency, with courts reinstating many terminated grants and employees. But DOGE's performance, I think, should be judged against realistic alternatives, not an ideal small government scenario, which will come in handy later when we're talking about tariffs. So a Kamala Harris administration, which was the actual alternative, there wasn't some mythical... Austin Peterson wasn't on the ballot in 50 states as a libertarian candidate for you to vote for me, and I know you're sad about it. You should be. You didn't vote for me in 2016, it's your own fault. A Kamala Harris administration, which was the other scenario we were facing, likely would have continued Biden's trajectory of expanding government with $4.7 trillion in increased federal spending, $2.5 trillion out of the deficit, and $1.8 trillion in new regulatory costs. So Doge's modest cuts still represent a significant improvement over the likely growth in government under Harris. That's the realistic alternative. So thank you, President Trump. And thank you to Steelbringer for beginning the unlockage of the bonus content. He has gifted a subscription to the Grizz of Cheese. Thank you for that, Joel. So we only need to raise $70 more by the end of the show, and you will unlock the bonus content. Let's try and unlock it early, guys. It's more fun to watch the bonus content than it is to watch the commercials. So comparison of Trump, Harris in regards to Doge. I mean, Doge would have never existed. There would have been no Doge. There would have been no government efficiency efforts. There would have been no fired government employees walking out of their administrations. The closing of USAID, they would have doubled USAID or they tripled it. There would have been a massive hiring of IRS employees. Instead, they sliced the hiring of IRS employees in half. And that's the realistic alternative that we were faced with. So you can say from a Trump Liberty score, Doge, big points. All right. And Trump he's not a small government advocate, right? Whether you talk about his trade or his immigration policies or, the lack of free market proponents in there, allowing Musk to lead Doge with significant authority to fire workers and terminate grants and downsize agencies. This was a surprising move for Donald Trump. I would say it was kind of a miracle, to be honest, that we got that at all. Because I really did, guys. I kept my expectations low, right? And I'm still disappointed. No, I keep my expectations low so that way you're not too disappointed in life. That's a smart way to handle things because life is pain, life is suffering. It's like the kids who come to my karate class. And they can't hack it. They cry. They run off of the mat, and they were never to be seen again. Well, what are you gonna do? Be softer, be nicer, no. Life is pain, children. Now is a good time to learn. Stephanie and I were watching the training of the U.S. Marines out in San Diego. And I was like, just look at all those. I was like, look at all those exercises those Marines are doing. I go, and think about it. If these kids study karate with me, they're doing the same thing. I'm making them do army crawls, all these same exercises. Running, jogging, punching, kicking. A lot of the same exercises we're doing in karate class. And I'm like, and if they stick with it with me, and then they get through all this pain and suffering, and they get strong, well, that boot camp is going to be nothing to them. By the time they get 18, they're going to be the best in their class, right? So the sooner that you accept that life is suffering, honestly, the happier you'll be because you'll be free. You won't be bound. You won't be bound by expectations, unrealistic expectations. That's just the truth. I mean, I hate to get all philosophical here, but the fact of the matter is that you have to judge your political decisions, who you vote for, what you plan to do with your life. You have to judge them against real alternatives, right? Like Thomas Sowell has said, life is about trade-offs, economics. It's all about trade-offs. So the fact that Donald Trump actually allowed Elon Musk to create Doge and to do as much as he did was a major, major step. Because again, he's not a small government guy. He's not a conservative, right? He's kind of a 90s Democrat. We knew what we were getting. And in 2025, a 90s Democrat is better than a 2025 Democrat. This is the sad reality that we all are faced with. Now, at least the United States had the good sense to vote for the 90s Democrat over the 2025 Democrat, unlike Canada, who decided they're going to vote for the 2049 communist socialist liberal. You know what I'm saying? Sad. Sad. Drew Van Runkle gave his brother his Gulf of America shirt from our shop for his birthday, and he loves it. Yeah! Brad got his Gulf of America shirt too. He loves it. It's awesome. So if you guys really want to hang out with us and be one of the cool kids, if you've got fear of missing out, and you should be very, very afraid of missing out, then head over to forlibertyshop.com, guys. Buy a Gulf of America shirt this morning, and then that helps to unlock the bonus contest. So we'll be well on our way. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Doge followed Musk's and Ramaswamy's vision, using executive orders to reduce the federal workforce and repeal regulations lacking congressional backing. So while Doge was chaotic, the actions made federal jobs less secure and government funding less reliable, potentially discouraging reliance on government and pushing talent to the private sector, which is what we want. And that, of course, could help boost economic efficiency in this country. I know not a lot of people are concerned about that, but some of us still are. Doge was just never going to be a methodical, libertarian-driven reform due to the fact that Trump's leadership style is just very chaotic. So, and that's evident in issues like tariff policy. So, but compared to plausible alternatives like no reform or under a Harris administration, Doge's achievements, even though they're messy, are a net positive for reducing government size. So, Senator Joe Manchin, for example, in West Virginia, if you're a progressive in West Virginia, Joe Manchin is a better option for progressives than a conservative Republican, right? And Doge is a success relative to what could have been under Harris or even Trump, right? Trump didn't have to do Doge. He didn't have to let Elon Musk fire all those employees. He didn't have to do any of that. So it could have been worse. It absolutely could have been worse. So, Doge made modest but meaningful cuts. And, Harris administration would have just doubled the budget, tripled it, quadrupled it, right? And yes, it's been chaotic, right, under the new Trump administration. But I think the fact is that the key takeaway in this is that you have to compare this to realistic alternatives. I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Send me a text at 573-319-1586. Now, more pros on the pro camp while we work our way up to this Liberty score, right? So Trump's pardon of Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road founder, convicted for running a dark net market. That was a direct nod to libertarians. That was a campaign promise he made at the 2024 Libertarian National Convention. And it kind of signals support for decriminalizing nonviolent offenses and challenging the war on drugs. Additionally, pardons for 23 anti-abortion protesters convicted under the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act reflect a willingness to protect free speech and assembly, even if that underlying issue divides libertarians. And quite frankly, I'm a pro-life libertarian, at least to the greatest extent that anybody could be. Right? Because there's so many issues that are related, or even some say tangential. Some people claim that the death penalty is a pro-life issue. Some people claim that war is a pro-life issue, right? And they're going to argue it till they're dead. But at the end of the day, if you think babies are a good thing and they shouldn't, have their brains slurped out with a vacuum cleaner before they're allowed to be born, then I would say typically you're pro-life. If you're for in vitro fertilization, I don't think that necessarily means that you're pro-choice. But again, these are issues that you can divide them. But I happen to believe that if you're an anti-abortion protester, then you ought to have the right to have that kind of freedom of speech in this country, because somebody's got to stand up for the babies, because who else will if we don't? So the pardon of Ross Ulbricht was a direct nod to libertarians, and Trump followed through on that one. Now, did we get a libertarian in the cabinet? No. But again, you have to compare this against a realistic scenario. Another point in the pro column before we get to the cons of the Trump administration is a lot of the rhetoric against overregulation and taxation. Now, I've been hearing some rumbling from Congress that they want to raise the top marginal tax rates. They could take that job and shove it. They ain't working here no more if they raise taxes, for sure. But Trump's public statements, like those in the Joe Rogan interview, so much has happened between then that we've already forgot. Remember when Donald Trump went on Joe Rogan, right, and talked about reducing taxes and regulations? What about the withdrawal from international agreements like the Paris Accord and the World Health Organization, right? These have been priorities of his, and this aligns with his skepticism of globalist bureaucracies that encroach on our national sovereignty and our individual freedoms. So, Trump has made that an important part of his presidency. So those are the pros, right? And if we're ranking Donald Trump on a pro-con liberty scale, we have to get to the cons, which we will do here in just a moment. I know you guys are like, no, here comes criticisms. I know. But before we get there, guys, I do want to remind you that the Wake Up America show is sponsored to you in part by our friends over at shopcpp.com. This is speaking of substances, it's your trusted online pharmacy helping you to build a healthier tomorrow today. They've got everything you need from trusted treatments for erectile dysfunction and sildenafil to essentials. I want to get some just to try it. To essentials like ivermectin, not that I need it. To essentials like ivermectin, weight loss products, and a whole lot more. Check out their latest arrivals. They've got Senforce 100, Camagra, and even oral jelly. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. If you need a little help slimming down, they've got the heavy hitters like Ozempic, Fitaro, and Mounjaro. Right now, they're having a big sale with big discounts. The site is easy to navigate. Browse, search, and find exactly what you need at shopcpp.com. And since you're part of the Wake Up America family, they've hooked us up with a 15% off deal. So if you use the code AP4Liberty at shopcpp.com, that's shopcpp.com, then you will get a 15% discount at the site. So don't wait. Head to shopcpp.com today. Health and convenience delivered right to your door. I'm going to pin. I'm going to pin a link to the shop that you guys can go to check out the oral jelly, which is quite lovely. A little oral jelly. First of all, who would buy sildenafil, Luke Sacker, is what you're asking? Let me just tell you something, buddy. I happen to know quite a few old fellas who would love them some sildenafil. You know what I'm saying? I bet you Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick loves some sildenafil. I like Dad Bod Baboon says, do they have those real weight loss meds called proper diet and exercise? First of all, boo. Second of all, don't you am I the only one who's just not even a little bit curious about trying Ozempic? Right? Don't you just kind of want to see what Austin would look like if he's jacked? Because I don't know if you guys have ever seen my naked body, but oh, you haven't? Okay, no, you don't? No? All right. But just FYI, I'm a little plump, but I'm very strong. So I work out a lot, constantly doing karate. Stephanie and I, since January, we got a Y membership and we're lifting weights and stuff. So underneath this thick layer of marbling is a juicy ribeye steak. But you guys are down with Ozempic. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm curious. I kind of want to do the Holocaust shtick for a little bit. Austin, don't do that. Maybe don't Holocaust jokes. People get really sensitive about that. But you don't want to try. You guys don't want to try it, see what you look like, because because here's the thing. I've got this base where I'm really strong. I've got good muscles. I got a strong core. I've got really big, strong abs, right? But then it's underneath the layers of mint chocolate chip cake ice cream and the delicious potatoes and French fries and all the good things that we like to eat. Wouldn't it be interesting to see like what you look like when you're just like jacked, just completely jacked? Because a lot of people, what I've seen is a lot of people get on Ozempic and they turn scary looking, right? But that's because they didn't work out before. And so they just get skinny, and it's kind of like, ooh, are you okay right there? Let's get you out of Bergen-Belsen here and get you over. Let's get you a cheeseburger, or like maybe hit the gym before you do it. So I feel like I'm in prime Ozempic territory. So if I do, Amy says you'll just gain it back after. So what? I don't care. I just want to see what I look like, okay? You'll gain it all back. They're all going to laugh at you. I don't care. I just want to see what I look like with a six-pack. Everybody wants to know. Come on. Let's get back to the subject, guys. Pros and cons, talking about Trump's Liberty score. Shut up about the Ozempic. It does have side effects like some osteoporosis. But what if I just do it for like 6 months, right? Just 6 months just to see, like, just get totally jacked, right? But for me, once I hit that, then it's like, okay, I'll just after that, I'll start dieting and I'll start eating healthy, right? Because then I want to stay looking good, but I want to get off the stuff. So I'll just use the drugs for a little bit, guys. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna order from shopcpp.com. You'll see. Anyways, so cons of the Trump White House in the first 100 days. As Mo Farmer over on the text messages was saying, Trump's protectionist trade policies and tariffs. Don't be angry at. Listen. Boo you boo, bow to the queen of slime. Protectionist trade policies. Trump's aggressive tariffs policies, including widespread, quote, reciprocal tariffs announced as Liberation Day, clash with liberty ideals. A majority of Americans, 55%, believe that the tariffs hurt the economy. No shit. And the S&P 500 has dropped 8.5% overall since Inauguration Day, and that's partly due to trade war fears. Now, these policies have increased costs, and they will continue to increase costs for consumers. They distort markets. They contradict our preference for open and free trade. And then, of course, the administration's inconsistent approach, pausing some tariffs for 90 days, except for China, that adds to economic uncertainty. And guys, there is a price to pay for all of those policies. There is a price to pay. Now, Mo Farmer over on X, Rob, who texted in this morning, says, so I know that you're going to give Trump an F on the scorecard for tariffs. Oh, he said 4 tariffs. Excuse me. I didn't see that you said 4 tariffs. Yes, I give him an F on the scorecard for tariffs. He asks, how do we deal with China, an adversary to the USA, and their unfair trade practices? Well, that's an interesting question, because you have to ask yourself, what are the tools that maybe a president, or what are the tools that the government has in its toolkit to deal with China and their unfair trade practices? Well, most of the tools that I think are the legitimate tools are the ones that a lot of right-wingers like these days tend to blanch at, and I'm talking about actual military subterfuge and counter espionage. Hello, it's called the military. The consumers, right? You don't screw over the American people. What you do is you use the military that you spend trillions of dollars for, hundreds of billions of dollars, to maintain an active military, and you engage in counter-espionage. Very simple, right? You act in a manner to protect the American national interests using the military that we pay for, and you engage in subterfuge and counter-espionage. It really shouldn't be that hard, right? China is an adversary to the USA, but does it always have to be? And must we always be so oppositional, right? Is there any way for us to have a path to perhaps more harmonious relations? Let me tell you, the best thing about the relationship between China and the United States has been our system of trade. Like that, don't you think that that's what's contributed to at least some of the good feelings between our two countries? And don't we actually want to have better relations with countries around the world? Must we always be so hostile and adversarial to everyone we meet? Which is not to suggest that I think that they won't be hostile to us, or that they aren't an actual threat or a military threat, and that there aren't problems. So I'm not some damn hippie. Hippies don't talk about counter-espionage and using the military to protect American interests overseas. But what's wrong with that? They're doing it. But when it comes to tariffs, that's just economic chaos. That's just disequilibrium. That harms Americans. It doesn't harm the Chinese as much as it does us, because guess what? Americans aren't going to put up with this shit of being poor. Chinese will suffer forever. They will take whatever shit their government gives them. They will take it. Right? It's not on us. It's so weird to see this kind of strange neocon attitude almost from paleocons when they talk about like this very hostile attitude towards other countries. And it's like you're just using, force in a different way, but you're punishing your own citizens instead of theirs, right? Just go after them using the military. No shit, right? That's what it's for, right? That's what we're doing. We don't punish American citizens. Don't stop them from doing the one thing that is the actual positive, because the misunderstanding of trade, guys, is that one party loses and the other party wins. That's not how economics works. That's not how it works. When you go to the grocery store and you buy an apple, the clerk says thank you and you say thank you, because mutual trade brings mutual benefit. Yeah, no shit. Second one, Joni Rankin says, what makes you think there isn't counter-espionage? What makes you think that I don't think that there isn't counter-espionage? That's the question. 2, if countries have tariff on the USA, isn't free trade a mythical standard to hold? No, because unlike gender, it's a spectrum. There is no utopia. And I really just resent. Here I have, for 20 years, I fought libertarian utopianism, where with my fellow libertarians who think that there is some perfect, magical, free world that we can live in. And they are so completely pie in the sky about everything, right? They can't make, when it came to supporting Trump versus Kamala, a reasonable, a rational alternative. But if countries have tariffs on the USA, isn't free trade a mythical standard to hold? It's not utopian. Your ideal is utopian, that there would be some perfect world where there would be no disequilibriums that would be introduced to the environment. Of course, there's going to be challenges and cheaters and currency manipulators, but here's the problem with this overall thinking is, again, it's just the same where people don't understand that mutual trade brings mutual benefit. Is that if they are subsidizing their industries, if China is what they say, this is what they call unfair trade practices. If China is subsidizing their industry, that is the communism, okay? If they're subsidizing, because what are we looking at doing now? We're looking at giving exemptions to the car dealers as of yesterday. Certain car manufacturers are going to have exemptions. They're going to get out of jail free cards. Then you've got how many other industries, like farmers? We're looking at now before we've even totally implemented the tariff policy. We're already talking about bailing out farmers. So we're redistributing wealth. So we're kicking ourselves in the nads. Why would we do that? If you don't have the tariffs, then you don't have to bail out the farmers. I mean, can't you see how ridiculous this is, right? So you support the tariffs and the bailouts and the stimulus. What makes you any different from Bernie Sanders? What makes you any different from the Democrats? Just the fact that you go to church on Sunday, is that the only thing that separates you from the left, right? What's the difference? You're just Democrats. If you just want stimulus, you want tariffs on one hand, and then the Republican Congress is talking about raising the tax rates. At least Trump is saying let's cut the income tax for people below $200,000 a year and replace it with tariffs and all that stuff. And certainly, I think, again, not being a utopian in myself, like being a steely-eyed realist, a tariff would be better than a income tax. But let's talk about what's real. The Congress isn't going to abolish the income tax. Okay, they're not. And if we don't get the Congress to pass a good bill here soon, then President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is just going to undo everything that Trump did.
No, God!
Yeah.
No, God, please, no!
And let's be real. Trump has some authoritarian tendencies, and a lot of people on the right admire him for that. Not my favorite thing, right? Trump's actions to centralize executive power is a red flag. You know, he fired inspector generals across 17 agencies, weakening oversight, gone after perceived enemies of himself like former officials through the Justice Department. You know, there's a tsunami of legally questionable executive orders. A lot of the things that I completely agree with may or may not be within his purview. I mean, here's the thing. Can the president abolish the Department of Education? No. Do I think he should try? Absolutely. Do I think that his executive order was a good executive order? Yes, I do. But that doesn't mean that the courts and the Congress may even step up to take back that authority, because even Republicans, trust me, love the Department of Education. You and I, the people watching this show who are smart, who have got the 130 plus IQ, who watch this show, we know that the Department of Education is cancer. It needs to go. Trump seems to agree with us on that, and God bless him. But that doesn't mean that the Congress isn't going to step up and just undo what he did. Again, we've got to get some laws passed here. But the Congress just doesn't want to seem to do it. My concern is that if we start to feel serious economic pain from the tariffs, then the American people are going to do what they just did in Canada, and they're just going to give us a wave of liberals and leftists, and we're going to have a president, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Bernie Sanders is going to be the vice president. And then, well, hopefully they'll allow you guys to still go to church on Sunday. But quite frankly, I think that'll be a dubious prospect, but at least you'll get your tariffs, right? At least under President AOC, you'll get your tariffs. You'll get your executive orders. You'll get all those authoritarian policies of Trump that I don't like, that you do like. It's just that it'll be a Democrat after. I look forward to all the Republicans who supported these policies that I disagree with here agreeing with me when the Democrats are in power and saying, oh, this is unconstitutional and this is overreach. Trump's immigration agenda. The Justice Department memo ordering prosecutions of non-compliant local officials undermines federalism. While some libertarians support border security, this heavy-handed approach risks overstepping personal freedoms and state autonomy. I just think that the states really need to be. I know that people are like, well, Trump's in office, so let's have the feds be the ones in charge of immigration and all that shit. I really think that the states should have some autonomy when it comes to immigration, simply because I think Texas would actually enforce the border even more harshly than Trump would, or the federal government, if they had more autonomy, if there was more federalism. And I know that the trend on the right is to, take illegals and mash them up into little pulp and use them to sow, fertilizer on the strawberry fields. But quite frankly, I just think that people who come here to the United States to work and not to do any harm to us probably shouldn't be treated the same as the MS-13 gang members. The MS-13 gang members should all be deported. They should be sent away. Everybody should get due process, and I like the idea of due process. But the fact is if there's 100 trillion illegal immigrants, like we're told every day on the news, the illegal immigration number just get bigger and bigger. It was like 1 million, 6 million. 8 million, 10 million, 150 million illegal immigrants. The numbers just get higher and higher and higher. It's like, okay, well, you're going to, if it's as high as you say it is, then we have to go after the ones who are committing the dangerous, violent crimes, not the blueberry pickers. Just the facts. That's just what it is. You don't like it. I know. Too bad. I'm a Liberty Republican. I'm not a populist Republican. Okay, that's just what you get when you watch the Wake Up America show. It may not be popular, but you know what? If you only defend liberty when it's popular, then you're not really that libertarian at all. Andy Opperman says, the pendulum swinging from left to right throughout my life has been a ratchet. Each president in my lifetime has expanded executive power, ever increasing, and I fear the trend will be unbroken. Yeah. I wonder what your thoughts are on that. So we've raised $30 towards the $75 goal. Guys, that's actually pretty good. Once we hit the $75 goal, you'll unlock the bonus content. So $30 raised towards the $75 goal. That means just a little bit more to go. And once we hit that, guys, instead of watching commercials when I go to my guest here in about 12 minutes, you guys get to watch the Lego bonus content mini documentary, which today, which one is it? What is it about today, Brad? Which one did we made? Let me check it out. Oh, yeah, the Florida lab-grown meat stuff that's going forward in terms of some people are fighting back against the lab-grown meat ban. So if you guys want to see an awesome Lego lab-grown meat mini documentary, then drop some Rumble Rants just like Andy Opperman, or maybe gift a sub like Steelbringer, and or go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Buy a box of our delicious Founding Flavors coffee, like what you can see pulled up on your screen right there. The Franklin's Electric Elixir, muy delicioso. I don't want to get deported. Founding Flavors coffee, Adams' Patriotic Perk, Madisonian Morning, available at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Okay, so overall assessment and score for Donald Trump. Overall, oh my God, I just got another booking for Fox News. Oh, shit. Tomorrow morning. Yes! 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 Tomorrow morning! I'm going to have just enough time before we get out of town. I got to pack today. Stephanie, we're going to be on Fox again, baby! What is going on? What is going on? So many wonderful things happening over here at the For Liberty Network. What is going on? What is going on? So many things to celebrate, guys. I tell you what. Let me tell you what. Gonna be back on Fox. I'm gonna be back on Fox. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So amazing, guys. You have no idea how, like, this is huge, huge, huge. Second booking in a month. This is, things are looking up. I've been looking the landscape over, and it's covered with four-leaf clover. Oh, things are looking up since Fox looked up at me. Bitter was my cup, but no more will I be a mourner. Oh, I've certainly turned a corner. Oh, things are looking up since Fox looked down at me. Watch the sunbeams, everyone beams just because of you. Love's in session and my obsession. Things are looking up. We need this song to start. This is just fantastic, guys. I'm so freaking excited. Be excited. Be excited. That's good stuff, guys. So what should I talk about? We'll find out. I'll let you know a little bit later. So let's finish off. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's too exciting when you get that kind of stuff. It's really big for your career to get those kinds of things. And you just don't get those. They don't just fall out of the sky, except this did kind of fall out of the sky because I have no idea why they just started. I guess some libertarian must have gotten a job over there as a producer. So thank God. But you know what? The thing that pisses me off is that I still don't have fast internet. I'm like terrified because you never know how fast, if the internet's going to be working, and it's like you're live on Fox in New York City, you better have a fast internet connection. So please, for the love of God, socket, get your broadband ass installed today. So anyways, from a libertarian perspective, Donald Trump's first 100 days, I would say, it's a mixed bag, right? He's got his populist and nationalist leanings. He's got that more than a consistent libertarian ideology. I understand. The pros: Doge's deregulation, high-profile pardons, firing government employees, anti-regulation rhetoric. That scores points for reducing government size and defending individual rights. But cons like protectionist tariffs, authoritarian power grabs, lack of respect for due process, that undermines personal liberty and decentralized governance, which is what we stand for. Of course, you have Trump's chaotic governing style, which doesn't necessarily bother me, but when it comes to the tariffs and the economy, and then Doge's court reverse cuts in the mix, right, that kind of prevents the steady principled reform that people like us might crave. But compared to a hypothetical Kamala Harris administration, which would likely have expanded spending and added regulations, $4.7 trillion and $1.8 trillion respectively under Biden, Trump's efforts to curb government growth are a relative win. So here's the overall score. Here you go. You guys ready? Trump's overall score on a liberty perspective, actually quite good. A passing score, 6.5 out of 10. Yep. And some of you out there are like, boo. And you're like either booing because you think that's too high or you're booing because you think that's too low. I don't care. It's my score. I get to choose. My show. So Trump earns a slightly above average score for advancing some libertarian priorities like deregulation and pardons, but he does lose ground for protectionism and some authoritarian tendencies. And, libertarians, we can celebrate tactical victories, but we have to remain wary of certain agendas which often prioritize power over principle, right? For a movement that dreams of a Rand Paul presidency, Trump's first 100 days are a pragmatic step forward, but far from the ideal. Is that fair? I want you guys to share your thoughts. Share your thoughts. So let us know, because do Trump's deregulation efforts outweigh his trade and immigration missteps? How should libertarians navigate the second term? I wanted you guys to join the conversation. Drop your comments in the Rumbles. Rumble rants would be appreciated. Let's hold the administration accountable to the principles of liberty and limited government. Stay true to our principles while acknowledging that this is a far better alternative to what the realistic alternative was. Kamala Harris on the next one. Can we just say 6.5 out of 10? And that's better than we could have had. Love to hear your thoughts on this one. Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Where did all the classy Americans go? From politics and podcasts to sports and TV, everybody's taking the low road, except my next guest. She's quite lovely. Camelia Peterson on the classy approach to politics when we get back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Founding fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at 4libertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at 4libertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
In Britain, we have had over a quarter of a million people issued non-crime hate incidents. As we speak, there are people in prison for quite literally reposting memes. We have extensive prison sentences and for tweets, social media posts, and general free speech issues. Would the Trump administration consider political asylum for British citizens in such a situation?
Well, to your latter question, it's a very good one. I have not heard that proposed to the president, nor have I spoken to him about that idea, but I certainly can and talk to our national security team and see if it's something the administration would entertain.
Everything said in a British accent just seems so classy. Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. I think the Trump administration should consider letting British people who have been persecuted and prosecuted, he should consider giving them asylum here. But, you know, too bad that this administration is like, no immigration. That's what asylum is for, right? Patriotic Brits who love free speech and liberty. The Holocaust deniers can stay over there. That speech is a little too free. Just kidding. Camelia Peterson joining us live. She's not a Holocaust denier. Look how classy she looks. It's been a while since we heard somebody in public life described as classy. The culture has time only for outrageous characters, F-bombers like me. Exhibitionists, maybe a little bit. Interrupters, yeah, me all the time. Slobs, can be a little slobbish, right? So the sublime has given way to the garish, the sacred to the profane. Everyone welcome the lovely Camelia Peterson. Hi, CJ.
Bringing class back to politics, right? That's
yes.
That's what I'm for. It's like swimming upstream, but you know.
It's a great article. I sent it to you yesterday. Question, where did all the classy Americans go? From politics and podcasts to sports and TV, everybody's taken the low road. Your take?
Yeah, I don't like it. I push back against this all the time. I know we joke a lot of times about how you need the warlords and the diplomats and whatnot, but I do think it's definitely true that in our social discourse, and especially on a professional level or in the upper echelons or positions or whatever, that it's certainly degraded considerably. And we talked last week about how that it bothers me that the official White House account has basically started memeing their way through and, using, I would say, questionable language. Using rhetoric in a way that I think that lacks the class and the neutrality and all of the graces that I expect out of our institutions. And so here's the thing, though. I do think that this is part of the trend of why people elected Trump the first time around, is because that classy way of doing things, or the etiquette and things like that came to be associated with establishment Republicans and elites. And so I think that's unfortunate, because I do think that it has a purpose in our society, and we are starting to see the fallout from that, because it doesn't. Yes, do social niceties get everything done? No, but they do help us come to the table and get something done. And there is just something that to be said for. Well, when we talk about whether or not you should be 100% honest all the time. So I saw, what's that JP, I can't remember his last name, the redheaded guy, comedian guy. And he does, he did this little skit on where he was telling his wife, she was like, I want you to be completely honest with me. And so she asked him questions and he's like, okay. And he gives her the unvarnished truth. And so I think that, and I'm all for one for people giving me the unvarnished truth, but I do think that, there is a time and a place that you can be careful how you say some things and maybe not say everything. And that's what allows us to actually get along and be considerate of each other. So we are missing that increasingly in politics as well.
Good point. Okay. Very good point, actually, Camilla, because Stephanie and I had a conversation about this, because she is really big on transparency and honesty, and your marriage, of course, you should be, but there is a point where perhaps it might be a little bit oversharing. I don't know. I know you're not into the pop culture. You probably never saw the Jim Carrey movie Liar Liar, where he plays a lawyer and his son makes a birthday wish, and the birthday wish is that his dad can't tell a lie, which, as for a lawyer, is of course a very difficult thing to do, and it makes his life hell, and of course it makes everyone's life hell around him. Great film if you've never seen it. Definitely a classic, one that'll make you laugh for sure. But here's the thing: it's not just that people aren't classy. They also, I think that the problem is that there really is a lack of shame in this society. For example, Cuomo, right? Why did Cuomo have to step down? Sexual harassment accusations. Guy obviously can't conduct himself while in office. Anthony Weiner, Democrat from New York, can't stop sending photographs of himself to young girls in the underwear. All this kind of behavior, this lewd behavior. It still hasn't convinced these people to have some sense of shame and humility, and perhaps not seek to represent other people. But you know what, Camelia? If everybody's like this, maybe they are good representatives for however everybody is. Maybe it is maybe it is Sodom and Gomorrah in the last days of Rome and Babylon. Maybe you know what? Maybe that is the perfect representative for how people actually act, Camelia, knowing what we know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is it used to be that if you did those kind of things, that you're right, you were kind of shamed into oblivion, and you did not come back and have a public life after that. That's not so much the case anymore. We have, openly philandering politicians in all kinds of high positions now. And so you can almost get away with anything, and you don't even have to hide it anymore. And this is not just Democrats. This is Republicans too. This is across the board. It has just become societally, maybe accepted. I think for a while we were at the tolerated, phase, and I think we're into the outright acceptance phase of it, which is, I think, is really unfortunate, because, I know that, this is human nature, and, nobody's perfect, and we're always looking for that hero, and we should not use politicians as role models. Okay. But I also think there is a flip side to that, in that there should be a higher expectation of the people that we put into leadership. And it is why we do talk about the importance of those people being role models for children, because people do, and adults too for that matter, because people have a natural human tendency to look up to those people. And they kind of set the the metric for what is acceptable societally. I mean, the more you can do something, publicly and it be perfectly okay and acceptable, then that becomes the norm in society. And at some point, like, where do we go the other way? It's hard for me to see that.
Well, here's the thing, talking about crude behavior, Donald Trump, I feel like, is sort of the avatar for this, because the man puts ketchup on his steak, for the love of God. Now, let me just tell you something. I don't mean to out her or anything like that. You can eat your steak however you like, and it's a free country and all that stuff. But when I see Stephanie putting a little ketchup on the side of a delicious ribeye, I get the ick. Like, I have to turn. I actually feel like, literally the other day I saw that there was ketchup on her plate for her steak, and I had to turn away because I was like almost gonna vomit. I was like, how dare her? How dare she? And then I had to just calm down and say, you know what? It's just ketchup on steak. People just get to eat what they like, right? But here's the thing. You are always talking about how Donald Trump, you don't like sort of like the way he conducts himself sometimes, certain ways, that he's crude, or perhaps he's insulting, or, maybe wisecracking. I think he's funny. And things like that don't necessarily bother me because, of course, in a realistic alternative, Camellia, those people that you were talking about that used to show grace and class, yeah, they showed grace and class as they lose everything that we every election, everything that we stood for. And it's kind of like, the problem with the nice guys, the Mitt Romneys and the Paul Ryans and others, is that, yeah, sure, they may they may be better on tariffs than Trump might be, but it doesn't matter because they lose and they can't bring about victory. So there's this strange sort of juxtaposition where it's like, listen, being nasty, being crude, it's effective, right? Look at all of the most popular influencers on the right. Look at all the most popular influencers on the right, almost to a man or to a woman, are all turds. I mean, one is literally named Cat Turd, right? But I mean, like, isn't it the fact, Camellia, that like this seems to be the bread and circuses that people want and people desire, but that seems to be what's most effective. I mean, now that you're a lobbyist, you have to look at what's real and what's possible, not just what you would like to see, but what actually is, right?
Sure, and I think that people see, of course, everybody has a platform now, right? And so I do think that people see those people who are so over the top, and they're like, look, they're just like me. Like, they're not afraid to say that. They're like, it's me, And so they feel validated, I think, and it appeals to. I mean, we're a long ways from Ronald Reagan and the better angels of our nature. And so, but I mean, in looking back on things like that, like I wouldn't necessarily lump, Reagan and Kennedy, and some of those into the category of fleecing us under the guise of, niceties. I do think that there was a time when people conducted themselves in that way, and they actually were really doing their best for the country, and they weren't, maliciously trying to deceive the American people. But we have, I think that when you talked about, especially maybe, looking back, when you talk about the Bush years and, the Obama years, and Obama was supposed to be seen as being so eloquent and graceful in his speech. And then, we got these terrible policies that literally made life worse for everyone. And so I think that we kind of went through that period where people began to associate that behavior with deception. And that's unfortunate because it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, but it doesn't have to be that way, but it is that way, Camellia. I mean, it is the fact that, and this is why a lot of people, I think, don't trust Vivek Ramaswamy, who just tweeted at me this morning. I just saw a few minutes ago, Vivek responded to a tweet. I said that if you don't support liberty, even when it's unpopular, you don't really support it at all. He tweeted back at me and said, that's the truth. But the fact is that we have to find a way to advance these principles that we care about while recognizing that certain things that we cannot change, certain things that we cannot, that aren't really important in the grand scheme of things necessarily have to be let go by the wayside. So these are the compromises that we made when we supported Donald Trump, right? People are like, when people are like, he's doing 145% tariffs, they're like, I voted for this. I'm like, I didn't. I voted for the other stuff. I voted for Doge and for, deregulations and tax cuts and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, we had to recognize that and certain other things, they were just less important to the other issues that we had to face.
Yes, I think it's always the quandary of accepting the reality, but also keeping the North Star in mind too, right? I mean, that's the constant struggle, for politically from a policy perspective is, we want, obviously, we want our North Star goal. We want the perfection of the policies that we think are going to work, but we also have to face the reality of what we can actually get done, which often looks very different. But that doesn't mean that we stop trying. And I think it's the case, too, that I don't think we should just throw up our hands and say, oh, everybody, swears left and right and, is just, vulgar online. And, so that's just the way it is. And we should just make that socially acceptable. I think there's always been a difference when you talk about whether it's, there's always, people on television who push the envelope when you talk about, late night shows, especially things like that. So there's always been that pushing the envelope, but it's always been balanced by, people also saying, whoa, 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 stop. Because eventually, if there's nothing for people to push against, if there's nothing for, like, maybe this is the maybe classiness will be the counterculture movement, right? Mm-hmm. Because what do the kids have to push against, if we've gone all the way to the other extreme and, it doesn't matter how vulgar you are publicly or anything. And they're like, well, everybody's doing that. I don't want to do that.
I would really, true. I would really love that. Because, I see that with a lot of the younger kids today where they sort of embrace counterculture politics to their parents and like the boomer generation. It's all about rejecting what if boomers do it, then it's wrong. So, if perhaps we could get a countercultural movement of people like acting classy, dressing nice, right? Not showing up to Walmart necessarily in your PJs, although that's kind of what it's for these days. Then maybe that would be a good thing, Camelia. Trump's 100 days hits today. Now, presidential terms, their second terms, Camelia, they're very rarely like big, successful terms. And Trump is got tons of energy, tons of ambition, and he is rolling back a lot of federal assaults on American values, like policing racial favoritism and all of that. Doge was more than I even thought we were going to get because I honestly expected nothing. And there are pros and cons. I gave Trump a 6.5 out of 10 on the Liberty score. Where would you rank him?
Gosh, to me, this is a little difficult just because, for example, when you read through that Wall Street Journal article, it talks about what's been done and not been done in that first 100 days. A lot of the things that he has accomplished are not the things that you're hearing about very much, which I think is unfortunate. Like, I think that's a narrative problem. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to go above a 6 just because I think the economy was one of the biggest factors, if not the biggest factor of why he got reelected. And so that's been, if nothing else, like the public narrative about that, I think has been really damaging with the strategy that they've been using and what they've been putting out publicly. Now, I think what we're not talking about enough are the things that he's rolled back in terms of, the energy sector and deregulation. And when you talk about, the strides they've made in eliminating a lot of this DEI stuff that's been a distraction. And some of those kind of things, I think, are things that get lost in all of the noise when we're talking about tariffs and those sort of things that are actually, the thing is that they have a real messaging issue on this because the damage from the tariff, what's actually put into practice is very real. And people are like, oh, well, see, the stock market's fine. We told you it would be fine, Okay, but the stock market came back because they said, oh, by the way, we're gonna put the brakes on these tariffs and we're gonna undo some of them, right? So, okay, that's fine, whatever. But the reality is that the impact on businesses is still happening. And so I would love to see them highlight a lot of these other things that are being accomplished that are positives, because I think that, especially when we're looking forward to 2026, if you don't start highlighting those things and all we hear about is still the economy and tariffs, like, we're in trouble.
Yeah, I know that this sounds very black-pilled, but I kind of think that the midterms not going our way is going to be a foregone conclusion. And, everybody kind of sees the polls that they want to see and reads the tea leaves as they want to read it. But frankly, I know that the way that tariffs impact, they don't necessarily happen right away. The pain starts to spread out into the economy. It's kind of a slow burn. And by the time midterms rolls around, that pain is probably going to be here. I hope it's not. I really hope the best for it. It's not that I want to be right about tariffs. I just think that I'm right about tariffs. And I hope that the American people don't suffer so much that they think that it's a wise thing to do like what Canada did yesterday and vote for a liberal party out of spite, because boy, people just seem to do that. People are just so willing, and I don't understand why. Yeah. People are so willing to just kick themselves in the nads out of spite.
It's because your feelings, you actually care more, a lot of people, the majority of people care more about their feelings than they do the facts.
Yeah.
We can say facts don't care about your feelings all day long, but lo and behold.
The opposite is true. Feelings don't care about your facts. That's the thing. Right. Yeah.
So, I think that completely doesn't surprise me that people will vote out of spite. They'll also vote because somebody's prettier than somebody else or, has certain physical features. So people do things for all kinds of crazy reasons. And, I really do believe in people. I want to believe in people, and I'm keeping my expectations high and allowing them to rise to the level of those expectations, right? But the reality of it is there's that very, that's just the reality of humanity, and people are going to vote because we tell them they should vote no matter how much they know about something, and they feel like that they're doing something, right? That's their way of contributing.
Camelia, you and I met in 2018 when I was running for the U.S. Senate here in Missouri, and we became really good friends. We're very close. Like, we share a lot of the same views and opinions and humor and hobbies and interests and things. And it's been fascinating to watch you grow from just sort of a showing up to the town hall meeting type person to now a full-blown registered lobbyist. Watching your career has been so exciting. You've gone, bump, 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 and now you're sort of at the commanding heights of what is possible, other than just being a politician yourself. I know a lot of people tell you ought to run for office, and I definitely agree with them and think that you should, and I think you would win because you're pretty. And that's all people care about. But I'd like, your first 100 days in office, I guess, give us just a summation, like in terms of what are some of the big things that you've learned, some of the things the wisdom that you could pass on to people from going from being a muggle, a regular non-magic user, to a level 10 sorcerer of politics. Share with us some of your thoughts and views and reviews as someone who now is like from an outsider to an insider. What's it like?
Sure. So I will tell you, when I was looking for my place in politics, after I kind of got involved in your campaign and sort of realized that I was looking for my spot, right? Was it in party stuff? Was it in, so I dabbled in a lot of things, and I ended up in the work I'm in because what I really cared about was the frustration that people had over not knowing how to impact the government, not being powerless, right? And so one of my favorite things is being able to connect people with resources and other people who think like them or also people who have differing opinions, because I think we need more of that. I think we need more people communicating together like that. I will say the further I got into it, my concern was that I would become very jaded because I watched a lot of people do that, and I don't want to get black-pilled in politics. Because it's not difficult to have happen. And I think one of the things that probably is different about me in this field is that I operate on a level of transparency and people know what I think. And I'm going to say that with a smile on my face, right? And I'm still going to appreciate them as people and accept our differences, but they will know precisely where I stand on something, and I won't play the games. And so I recognize that kind of operating on that also makes me vulnerable to being manipulated or deceived, or people thinking they can do that. I also think that it's probably somewhat of a strength in that, there have been times people have tried to do that. I mean, that happened to me this session where someone, did try to operate it in good faith. They were not operating in good faith, and they were playing political games. And the bottom line is, I did what I believe to be right, and I still treat them the same way. And, that's just how I operate. So I think that's the challenging thing, and probably the hardest part is that it's so difficult to get things done when you get into the middle of the process. And our good friend Tony Lavasco told me one time a couple of years ago that the problem with getting Liberty people to stay and actually stay long enough to make a difference is that they end up having to get their hands dirty.
Yeah.
And you have to lose some of those purist tendencies, and you have to keep your perspective. So, I was telling somebody yesterday, we were talking about how that it is weird, though, just how small the world of politics is. Like, it is a very small world, much smaller than you would think. I think everybody outside looking in thinks that, oh, wow, look at this, like, really, like, these people are in the elite and whatever. I'm like, no, they're not. I think that you should treat your elected officials with respect, just like you treat everybody else with respect, but they are not experts. They can benefit from your wisdom as well. I think it matters how you approach them with those things, and you have to remember that they are just people who are like you, who just took the extra step of throwing themselves into the ring, which I respect anyone for doing that, because watching what legislators have to deal with, I have a lot of.
You sound like a globalist insider.
I know, right?
Insider.
I know.
Camellia, we won't be together on Thursday because I'm going to be hanging out with Dr. Bob.
Oh my gosh! I almost forgot. This is the week. Oh.
Yes, I know you're very busy, but things have been crawling forward. This is the week for the DC Liberty Tour. Justin's going to be there with us the whole time. You're so jelly.
I'm missing out. I hate that. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh yeah, this will be fun. You'll have to hang out with us. You'll have to go with us to Buenos Aires when we go hang out with Javier Milei. So we'll talk about that one for the next trip.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, we'll tell Dr. Bob that you said hello and give him a handshake and send you a picture. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience, Camellia, or plug before we let you go today?
So I would just encourage everyone that I think that we're in a society where we talked about, whether or not we're the social niceties, that I think that if we go back to the things that we learned from our grandparents, that, the idea of the golden rule and treating people the way you would like to be treated and, granting grace to people, those are all things that still make it easier for us to get things done as we're doing life together. And I would say that, everybody else in a transactional world, don't be the non-transactional person, because I will tell you that has been my experience, is that while everybody else doesn't operate that way, the people will respect you for operating that way. And it can work.
Absolutely. Camellia, I appreciate that. And you certainly are an inspiration. And, I think that, I'm glad that you're in our life, because Hazel really is going to need somebody like you to look up to. And I think that, a lot of young girls could really take a lot of inspiration from what you've done and showed is possible. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for your time.
Have a great day, everyone.
There we go. That's Camellia Peterson. Everybody give her a round of applause. Say thank you. And if you haven't already, please click the like button on the Wake Up America show's Rumble stream at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. If you're one of our viewers over on X.com this morning, click the heart button and repost the stream so other people can enjoy it and you can get it out there and spread the word. We do have a lot of nice people who send us text messages, like Rob this morning, who was saying thanks for the discussion about tariffs. us, and we're glad to have him. He was saying, hey, what would it take to get you included in the new live Rumble lineup? I don't even know what that is. He says, I'm economically challenged right now from donating, but would love to see your success. Maybe get in one of those debates on Tim's culture war. Well, Tim Pool did invite me to come on soon, so I'm not sure when that'll happen, but that will happen, Rob, and thanks for listening. And if you're economically challenged, no worries. Just make sure, though, that you click that like button. And if you haven't already, click the follow button as well on the Wake Up America show's live stream so that you can get updates when we go live, which is every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central, except for this week because tomorrow and Thursday I'll be out. We'll be back on Friday, streaming live from D.C., really Alexandria, Virginia, but who's counting, from my buddy's living room. And it will be fun, and you will get an update on what's happening with the Liberty Tour, and Joe will probably be on the show with me. Stephanie will be there. Hazel. It'll be a little hodgepodge pell-mell perhaps, but we will have a show on Friday morning. We are about 30 minutes away from the end of the show, and I'm actually kind of nervous that we're not going to unlock the bonus content today. We don't want to have that happen. We have raised $30 towards the $75 goal. So $45 more to unlock the bonus content is all we need. How do we unlock the bonus content, Austin? Well, I understand not everybody can afford to do Rumble rants or make purchases at the shop. However, for those of you who can and who would like to support the ideas of liberty so that everybody can benefit, then helping us to unlock the bonus content is a great way to support the show and to get a little something back. If you guys are monthly subscribers, you get a 20% discount at the shop. But Austin, what do you have at your shop? We've got delicious Founding Flavors coffee at forlibertyshop.com. Buy a couple of boxes of coffee, maybe a t-shirt from the Gulf of America collection. And if we hit $40 by the end of the show, then that'll unlock the bonus content. But we've got only 30 more minutes, so I think it's possible we won't. Just FYI, if we don't unlock the bonus content, guys, if we don't, then the mini documentary that we produced today for you guys goes away forever, and it never gets seen. So when you download and when you unlock the bonus content, guys, it does... It does go out there to the general public. You're helping to spread the ideas of liberty, and it helps me and Stephanie keep the lights on over here while we're working to build our Liberty Network. So you can do a Rumble rant of any amount, $1, $5, $10, $20. We've one time had $100. Somebody donated, pretty crazy. Or you can go to forlibertyshop.com right now. That's the number, forlibertyshop.com. Buy a box of coffee or a t-shirt, and that will help to unlock the bonus content as well. So 30 minutes to go. And let's do it. We've got more content to go. Oh no, wrong button. Camelia's not there.
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have
this conversation is about to take a left turn.
Jordan, right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on.
So this is really weird. This is Bill Belichick, this story, right? His girlfriend, va-va-voom, right? You know, congratulations to him, right? 25 years old, this young lady, or 24. Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson, legendary football coach, and his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. Everybody's talking about this because we hear this all the time, that people see these older men with these younger women, and this guy could be her grandfather, right? And they always, because he's so rich, he's so powerful, he's this football star, and they say that that he is taking advantage of her, which I find hilarious, because let me tell you something. If you've never been an older man who dated younger women, you might not be aware that it is a fact that many younger women are actually taking advantage of the older men. Do you think that Anna Nicole Smith was not a predator? Because I assure you, do you want to see what the face of a predator, the body of a predator looks like? Take a look at this.
A constant presence.
Right there. She's a man-eater.
During our interview.
You have Jordan.
Barracuda.
Right over there.
Look at that. See that way she's
Everybody
leaning in
the
right there?
world
I've seen that look before.
seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your
Look how
private
she's
life.
looking.
It's got
She's
nothing to do
nervous.
with them, but they're invested in it.
She's invested in this interview. You can see she's leaning forward. She's very intent. She's staring. She's got that angry look on her face.
How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just
BS.
try to do what I feel like is.
Why are you wearing that shirt? I mean, you know what? Maybe it's true because he's wearing a ripped up navy.
That's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
How did you guys meet? We're not talking about this. You see the way that she say that? I mean, like that is cold, calculated. You want to know who's taking advantage of who? That's the predator. She's the predator right there.
It's a topic neither one of them is.
No, look at the way she's looking at the camera right there. Those are now, men. Some of you know what that look is, right? Well, you got that chicken butt red lipstick like that. She's got the sunglasses on her head and her hair right there, long brown brunette hair, right? Sitting there in a sweater like she just don't care, and she's giving you that look. How many out in the chat by hands? I want you all to vote. How many, by show of hands in the chat, man, how many of you have seen that look on a woman's face? I want to know. Joey Maddow, have you... For the heterosexual men in the chat, I want to know, did you guys, have you ever seen this look on a woman's face? I would be interested to hear your thoughts. Have you ever seen that look on a woman's face? Entropy Nomad, right? With the knife in the chat. Yeah. Now, Hudson, she's a former competitive cheerleader, 2024 Miss Maine USA pageant runner-up. You got to watch out for the runners-up, man, because they got something to prove in life. I know. I'm a runner-up for the President of the United States for the Libertarian Party nomination. I'll show you. Now, Belichick, he did have... Joey Maddow, he's seen that look on a woman's face before. Are we saying Belichick is whipped? I actually think it's more than that, Camellia. I think it's actually... because apparently CBS did not show most of that interview. Apparently, there was a lot more interruptions that were like this, and she was policing this interview. I want CBS to release the full tape, right? Drew says, I'd let her spank me for being a bad boy, though. What is wrong with you, Drew?
No, God, please, no, no, no.
Actually sounds okay. Even before this past weekend's embarrassing CBS interview in which Jordan Hudson made it clear who wears the pants in her romance with Bill Belichick, the legendary football coach's friends were shaking their heads. They are talking to him about her, but very gently because they know how deep in he is. And oh, is he in quite deep. Thank you, Joni, for the Rumble Rant donation, by the way. And I think someone else did $5. So now we're at trying to be prudent for the trip, but here's $5 for the bonus content. Thank you, Cecilia. So, yeah, that's... So, 30... so all we need is $30 more to unlock the bonus content. I think we're going to do it. Wow. So let's see. Got 28 minutes. I tell you what, we'll just, an even $20 and drop it in a Rumble Rant. Somebody drop a Rumble Rant and we'll call it bonus content. There we go. Go to forlibertyshop.com, buy a box of coffee, and then we'll consider it unlocked. Camellia says he hasn't married her, has he? No, he has not. And if he is a smart man, and he doesn't appear to be a smart man in the romance department, he will not do that. Or if he does, he will have the strongest prenuptial agreement filed with the most conservative court in district, wherever he can, to make sure that it is rock solid. But apparently his friends are trying to talk to him and say, hey, listen, man, she's kind of dangerous. One insider reported to the New York Post that she saw an opening and she took it. She has been heavily criticized and mocked after interfering in the former Patriot coach's interview with CBS Sunday Morning, but she apparently gets down on the field and gets out there with him and is giving him feedback or tips when it comes to his coaching. Not just interrupting his interviews, but she is slowly taking over his life. This is like if Anna Nicole Smith was competent, right? If she was not, because apparently, didn't she fumble the bag? Didn't Anna Nicole Smith fumble the bag? I think she did. LaBelle W says, because you all are worth it. Oh, you're worth it. LaBelle, thank you very much for helping us, LaBelle, to unlock the bonus content. Whenever we make money on this show, it goes to a good cause no matter what. We either use it to fund our documentary or to fund the business and to grow our show or pay the bills that we need for AI and for all the tech that we have to have for the show. Or it goes to feed our delicious baby milk into our beautiful baby. Sweet little Hazel Rose, who's going to be with us on the DC trip. So I tell you what, guys, we'll continue this conversation after the break. Enjoy the bonus content. We'll be right back. Thank you to LaBelle Yu and Andy and Cecilia and to Joni and everybody, Steelbringer. And if I missed any, please chastise me in the chat. Harder, Daddy, harder. And we'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. The so-called free state of Florida. You can carry a gun without a permit or bet on a cockroach race, but heaven help you if you want to eat a chicken nugget grown in a lab. Florida just became the first state in America to officially ban lab-grown meat. That's right, innovation on your dinner plate is now illegal, because nothing says limited government like politicians telling adults what kind of chicken they're allowed to eat. So what is lab-grown meat? It's real meat, made without slaughtering an animal. Scientists take a few cells from a cow or a chicken, feed them nutrients in a bioreactor, and grow actual muscle tissue. It's not fake. It's not tofu wearing a meat costume or some kind of Lego food. It's biologically identical to the stuff you'd get from the farm, minus the mooing and clucking. Companies like Upside Foods and Good Meat have already cleared FDA safety checks. Singapore even started serving lab-grown chicken in restaurants back in 2020. In America, the technology is real, the food is safe, and some chefs were starting to put it on menus. Until now, at least in Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis framed the ban as a defense of traditional agriculture. "We will save our beef," he declared, apparently envisioning a future where brave cowboys duel evil scientists armed with petri dishes. Florida's agriculture commissioner called lab meat a threat to authentic agriculture. Because heaven forbid the free market offer consumers an alternative to factory farming. And here's the thing, banning lab-grown meat isn't about safety. It's not about health. It's not about saving you from mutant chickens. It's about protecting entrenched industries that don't want competition. Old-school agriculture lobbies don't like the idea of cell-based meats stealing their customers. So what do? They run crying to the government to outlaw the competition before it ever really gets started. And politicians, ever eager to score cheap, protect our farmers' points, happily oblige. That's not capitalism, that's cartel behavior with cowboy hats. Meanwhile, in the real world, places like Singapore are embracing food innovation. Even here in the US, the federal government didn't ban lab meat, they regulated it. They tested it. They said, yep, it's safe. It's only at the state level where this protectionist nonsense is happening. And predictably, a lawsuit is already underway. Upside Foods and others are suing Florida, arguing that banning their products violates the Constitution. And they're right. States aren't supposed to discriminate against legal products just to prop up local favorites. That's not federalism. That's economic protectionism wrapped in a support the ranchers bumper sticker. Beyond the legal issues, there's the basic matter of freedom. In a supposedly free country, should politicians really be deciding what kind of safe food you're allowed to eat? If you want a regular burger, great, go get one. If you want a burger grown without slaughtering a cow, that should be your choice too. Freedom doesn't mean the government gets to protect you from choices it finds uncomfortable. Freedom means letting adults decide for themselves. This is bigger than meat. It's about whether government gets to stand between you and the future. Whether they get to pick winners and losers in innovation, whether they get to lock you into old industries simply because they have more lobbyists. First, it's lab meat. Next, it's milk alternatives. Then it's synthetic fabrics, or lab-grown organs, or clean energy technologies that threaten the old monopolies. Once you accept that the state can ban new ideas and just call it protection, there's no end to what they can crush in the name of tradition. And let's not pretend this is the last time it'll happen. Every time innovation threatens an old cash cow, pun intended, the losers will run to politicians for protection. If you actually believe in free markets, this is the moment to stand up and say no. Let the people decide. If lab-grown meat is gross or unpopular, it'll fail. If people want it, they should be allowed to buy it. That's the American way, or at least it used to be. Thanks for watching. If you believe real freedom includes freedom of choice, especially at the dinner table, check out forlibertyshop.com. We've got the gear that celebrates independence, innovation, and personal responsibility. The very things that lab-grown bands like this are trying to stomp out. That's forlibertyshop.com. Go grab something sharp. Fight for your freedom and your dinner. See you next time.
The first one I found, and I don't know if it's legit or not, but I thought it was funny to add it in anyway because I could see this actually being the case, is somebody putting in this desired salary. Now, we've all seen this on job postings where they ask you to put your desired salary in, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because if you put the wrong salary in, then you're going to get rejected. If you put too low of a salary in, then you're worried about not getting paid correctly. So that's why it's really important to value yourself properly. And here's my philosophy on these types of posting where you've got to put a salary in. Be true to what your actual number is. In fact, I would probably pad it a little bit because they're going to use this number as the basis for an offer. And if you're giving the minimum acceptable, you got to be prepared for the minimum acceptable. Okay, so this one is for an experienced executive assistant. Now, I'm assuming this is on link. This looks like it's Indeed.com just by the layout. But the company is Inbound Logic. They're based in DC. They're looking for remote, and they pay between 25 to 30 an hour. You know, that seems like it's all right. It seems like it might be an okay position. So the first thing that I'm noticing is it says full-time, part-time, or contract. That's the first red flag because they're looking for all three, any of the three. Really, that's the shotgun approach. So that should be a red flag to you that they can't find candidates, so they're just throwing anything out there. Look at the next line below it. It says responds to 51 to 74% of applications in the last 30 days and typically within the last 10 days. So that means that they're literally applying to anything that comes their way. So huge red flags for me already on those two lines because they're just
a new survey reveals over 7 in 10 young Americans, 73% of Gen Z and 70% of millennials are actively seeking to switch jobs or careers, and it's a nightmare out there, driven by widespread burnout and toxic workplace conditions. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show, guys. Hope you enjoyed the bonus content. Where else are you going to watch a Lego mini documentary about lab-grown meat? Wasn't that awesome? Totally fun. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying those and keeping the Wake Up America show rocking and rolling over here, keeping the lights on, keeping the Liberty going. As long as you guys keep unlocking the bonus content every day like you do, this show continues. This show continues, and the revolution continues right along with it. "73% of Gen Z and 70% of millennials," that's me, "want to switch jobs or careers, compared to 51% of Gen X and only 33% of baby boomers." It kind of makes sense, right? Older people don't want to take those kinds of risks. Younger generations are significantly more restless, though, likely due to higher burnout rates and dissatisfaction with workplace conditions. 52% of all respondents feel burnout at work. 68% of Gen Z and 61% of millennials, compared to 47% of Gen X and 30% of boomers. What do you think that could be? Love to hear your thoughts. Send me a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. And if you do, I'll be able to read them. You can text us anytime. Don't forget, guys, no show tomorrow or Thursday. Don't be mad. Don't be disappointed. We will be back on Friday, but this is APDC Liberty Tour Week, okay? So, burnout. 52% of all respondents felt burnt out at work. 79% of workers experienced burnout in the last year. That's why we're doing the APDC Liberty Tour. Steph and I were talking about the other day because we need a little break, man. And yeah, we're still going to be kind of working, essentially. But it'll be fun. We get to go to D.C., take our baby Hazel, get to see our congressman, Dr. Bob, and visit the Jefferson Memorial, which is, for me, visiting the Jefferson Memorial is kind of like, for some people, they go to church. For me, I go to the Jefferson Memorial. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'll confess, when I first lived in D.C. back in 2008 and was working at the Libertarian Party, I used to pray to Jefferson in the mornings and say, but it was just a short little prayer. Say, Thomas, give me strength. And then later I would give like the prayers to Crom and be like, Crom, grant me revenge. And then if you do not listen, then to hell with you. Dum 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 dum. Dun 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 dun. Why are people burnt out? Well, it's because they don't get to do awesome Conan the Barbarian quotes for their job like I do. That's because of repetitive tasks. 33% say their job feels like the same thing day after day. Oh my God, I would want to die. Thank God I have Stephanie and Hazel, or else I don't know if I could have a will to live. Increased expectations without pay raises, 23% of people said, and a lack of appreciation for work, 23%. Aw, you need somebody to tell you you're doing a good job. Oh, you're doing a good job. Okay, there you go. Right, get to work. Workplace stressors like heavy workloads, 46% said. Pressure to meet goals, 34%. This just sounds like a job. And expectations to be on outside work hours, which I agree actually is a problem. I do everything in my power to avoid talking to Brad whenever we're not working together. Not because I don't like Brad or want to talk to him, but it's understood here at my workplace that if I send you something that's like business related off hours, it's so that I can remember for us to talk about it when we're back on the clock. So I just I don't want to forget, so I just send it to you. But then the expectation is it will be done during work hours, because I didn't like it when somebody monopolized my time outside of work, and I certainly just it depends on what kind of job it is. I think that matters, and the expectations that you have. But for the most part, I've been an employee. I'm now an employer. And I have to say that for the most part, you just want to try and leave people alone outside of work. You just do. They need it. I needed it. Everybody needs it. It's good for us to have that time off. I was reading the other day about people who take one vacation a year. They studied people who took one vacation a year for 9 years in a row, and the people who did that had higher longevity, longer longevity for their life than people who did not. It's good to unwind. It's good to unplug. It's good to take a break, and it's good to set boundaries too for your bosses. The best time to do it, guys, is before the job starts. Is to say, I'm here working during the hours. It's understood that I'm not going to be answering emails or stuff when I'm at my son's birthday party or graduation or something like that on Saturday or Sunday, right? Unless it's understood that it's like there's time sensitive critical jobs. And there are a lot of jobs that it's just no joke. You do have to be on all the time and be ready to go and rock, because do you want to succeed or do you not? And business doesn't stop. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, people are going to the store and buying things, and that's just what it is. Stress among colleagues, like interpersonal relationships, 47% of people said that's what's burning them out. 30% of workers are reporting toxic environments. 52% are working while they're sick. I've done that. And 31% skipping lunch breaks. Yep, done it. 74% of workers live paycheck to paycheck, adding to the financial strain. 67% report their company reduced staff. 58% fear layoffs in the next 12 months. These insecurities exacerbate burnout and drive the desire to seek new in opportunities. You know what's going to help my burnout? Going on Fox News tomorrow morning. Check me out, guys. I just got another email. Good morning, pineapples. Tomorrow morning. Tell your cousins and your aunts. Find me tomorrow morning on Fox and Friends First. Probably be way freaking early. It's going to be like 4 a.m. And I already have to get up way freaking early to get to Washington, D.C. because I'm going on a little workcation, we'll call it. I get to hang out with Cecilia, Amy J. Ease, Quest, and Franny, and Ryan Cartoonin, and Tony Martinez is going to be there. I just found out yesterday he's going to be on the trip with us. Justin Peterson, my daughter Hazel, James Taylor, his family, so many family members, kids. It's going to be an absolute blast. So I'll be gone tomorrow. I'll be gone Thursday. We'll be back on Friday. And then, guys, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Los Angeles. Should I do Freedom? Should I do the Wake Up America show from Los Angeles? Because I'm going to be in Los Angeles 2 weeks for the premiere of my new movie, Killing Mary Sue. So many wonderful, good things are happening. Thank you for being a part of it, guys. Without the Wake Up America show audience, all the financial support you guys are giving, all the support, all this good stuff wouldn't be happening. It's because of you. It's thanks to you. I mean, I do play a small part, but even I get burnout, guys, doing this. Even I get burnout, and even though it's a wonderful, amazing job, and I'm blessed, and I lead a charmed life in many respects, I do get burnout. So let's go have a few days off. Let's have some fun. Let's hang out. Let's go to George Washington's house. Let's go to Thomas's memorial, and we'll have a little prayer together to crush our enemies, to see them driven before us, and to hear the lamentations of their women. Yeah, no, all right. Enjoy the bonus content, guys. You earned it. You unlocked it. We'll see you guys on Friday on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. So-called free state of Florida, you can carry a gun without a permit or bet on a cockroach race. But heaven help you if you want to eat a chicken nugget grown in a lab. Florida just became the first state in America to officially ban lab-grown meat. That's right. Innovation on your dinner plate is now illegal, because nothing says limited government like politicians telling adults what kind of chicken they're allowed to eat. So what is lab-grown meat? It's real meat, made without slaughtering an animal. Scientists take a few cells from a cow or a chicken, feed them nutrients in a bioreactor, and grow actual muscle tissue. It's not fake. It's not tofu wearing a meat costume or some kind of Lego food. It's biologically identical to the stuff you'd get from the farm, minus the mooing and clucking. Companies like Upside Foods and Good Meat have already cleared FDA safety checks. Singapore even started serving lab-grown chicken in restaurants back in 2020. In America, the technology is real, the food is safe, and some chefs were starting to put it on menus. Until now, at least in Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis framed the ban as a defense of traditional agriculture. "We will save our beef," he declared, apparently envisioning a future where brave cowboys duel evil scientists armed with petri dishes. Florida's agriculture commissioner called lab meat a threat to authentic agriculture. Because heaven forbid the free market offer consumers an alternative to factory farming. And here's the thing, banning lab-grown meat isn't about safety. It's not about health. It's not about saving you from mutant chickens. It's about protecting entrenched industries that don't want competition. Old-school agriculture lobbies don't like the idea of cell-based meats stealing their customers. So what do? They run crying to the government to outlaw the competition before it ever really gets started. And politicians, ever eager to score cheap, protect our farmers' points, happily oblige. That's not capitalism. That's cartel behavior with cowboy hats. Meanwhile, in the real world, places like Singapore are embracing food innovation. Even here in the US, the federal government didn't ban lab meat. They regulated it. They tested it. They said, yep, it's safe. It's only at the state level where this protectionist nonsense is happening. And predictably, a lawsuit is already underway. Upside Foods and others are suing Florida, arguing that banning their products violates the Constitution. And they're right. States aren't supposed to discriminate against legal products just to prop up local favorites. That's not federalism. That's economic protectionism wrapped in a support the ranchers bumper sticker. Beyond the legal issues, there's the basic matter of freedom. In a supposedly free country, should politicians really be deciding what kind of safe food you're allowed to eat? If you want a regular burger, great, go get one. If you want a burger grown without slaughtering a cow, that should be your choice too. Freedom doesn't mean the government gets to protect you from choices it finds uncomfortable. Freedom means letting adults decide for themselves. This is bigger than meat. It's about whether government gets to stand between you and the future. Whether they get to pick winners and losers in innovation. whether they get to lock you into old industries simply because they have more lobbyists. First, it's lab meat. Next, it's milk alternatives. Then it's synthetic fabrics, or lab-grown organs, or clean energy technologies that threaten the old monopolies. Once you accept that the state can ban new ideas and just call it protection, there's no end to what they can crush in the name of tradition. And let's not pretend this is the last time it'll happen. Every time innovation threatens an old cash cow, pun intended, the losers will run to politicians for protection. If you actually believe in free markets, this is the moment to stand up and say no. Let the people decide. If lab-grown meat is gross or unpopular, it'll fail. If people want it, they should be allowed to buy it. That's the American way, or at least it used to be. Thanks for watching. If you believe real freedom includes freedom of choice, especially at the dinner table, check out forlibertyshop.com. We've got the gear that celebrates independence, innovation, and personal responsibility. The very things that lab-grown bands like this are trying to stomp out. That's forlibertyshop.com. Go grab something sharp. Fight for your freedom and your dinner. See you next time. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a redcoat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors. And trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.